Welcome to our Leadership Dialogue series, Advancing Higher Education in India, in association with Coursera. This is for ET Education. I'm pleased to have you join us today as we delve into the future of higher education and the evolving landscape of education in India. We're honored to have Dr. S. Sundar Mohan, Director General, Pandit Deendayal Energy University, and Prashasti Rastogi, Director at Coursera for Campus. In today's interview, we will be exploring the dynamic changes happening in higher education, and we'll also discuss the rise of online learning, the importance of industry micro credentials, and how generative AI is reshaping teaching and learning approaches. Let's go straight to the first question. I would love to start off with you, Dr. S. Sundar Manoharan, Director General. If we can start off by discussing one or two major changes in education over the recent years and the impacts these changes are having.
First of all, the baseline to whatever sea of changes that's happening, I would attribute to National Education Policy, NEP 2020, which definitely has changed the entire perspective. The earlier formats of our education policy revolved around the norms, the policies made by UGC, AICT, which caters to both the arts and science universities, as well as the STEM universities, especially the technical ones. But now, with the introduction of NEP, we see a candid change from STEM to STEAM. STEM adding another alphabet to its grandeur, A, which stands for arts. So the liberal arts combining with STEM technologies, adding flavor to the entire university setup. Now, just to make sure that I'm going to be precise in narrating how this NEP is going to bring forth a new change, a new normal. First of all, the introduction of 4-year UG courses. I think 90% of the existing universities do not have a 4-year curriculum for UG. Therefore, that's going to bring a sea of change in curriculum revision and also to the adoption, because faculty members are tuned to teach a 3-year UG program in the arts and science. But PDU, since its inception, has always run only BSc, BA, BCom, BBA honors for 4 years. Therefore, we had a very good time just seeing that we are already into NEP in its length and breadth of adoption. So we are happy to be complying with NEP in the first place. Number two, the introduction of levels, level 5 to 9 in higher education brings a sweeping change, starting from certificate course. If you just did 2 semesters, and then diploma course, if you've done 4 semesters, then you talk about a UG course without honors, that's 6 semesters, and then the actual UG program, which comprises of 8 semesters. So this has brought a level of integration. First of all, the idea of introducing this is to make curriculum versatile and for every citizen to have access to learn and to educate himself. So we are talking about fast learners and slow learners, and also those who have disruption during their educational career, that they can always think about continuing later, but not really ending up in a disastrous way. So NEP brings life to every citizen, a hope that one day he can graduate and have a wholesome feeling of education. And if societal demand is there, he can pull out for a time and then he can continue and bloom at some point of time. So this has brought a new perspective that it can reach to the last citizen who is aspiring to go into a university setup. That brings a newness, a warmth, and a hope for every person who thinks that universities are meant only for fast learners. But that way, I think it's a newness that I would say. Apart from that, there are radical changes that NEP brings. One is the exit option, as I told you. The other one is a radical introduction of UG all the way to PhD, skipping the masters, which Indian universities have never witnessed. So that's going to actually be a new normal. As I'm talking to you, already this is implemented, and our own students who do BTech programs, those who have a 7.5 CGPA, they have already opted for PhD programs, and that too with funding. That brings another newness. And the other thing is about the academic bank of credits. That will specially equip the ladies, those who have disruption in their studies. They can have an academic bank of credit, and sometime they can continue. So this was designed keeping the women students, graduates in mind, in case of disruption, and then it is also for everyone. So ABC is going to be a game changer in the university. And also, I feel introduction of person of professional excellence from industries, which we call it as professor of practice. That is going to revolutionize the teaching resources from conventional teachers who have a PhD to radically bring a non-PhD person with 20, 30 years industry experience to come to the board and teach. He's going to reflect the field demands rather than the bookish challenges. So that's going to actually bridge the gap between the industry and academia in a major way. Lastly, I feel the global partnership, that is, again, I'm sure I'm going to touch on this later in our conversation. Global partnership is radically changing the mindset of a student who is aspiring for either a arts degree or an engineering degree. And that's going to bring a lot of global partnership, and people are going to think the entire globe as a learning village. It's not going to be confined to Indian university. It's going to be a global village where they will be feeling belonged. So the gap, as much as we see between the academia and the university, we also had this gap between global university versus Indian university. That's also closing up with NEP. I think these are some of the sweeping changes that I have witnessed.
Sir, thank you so much for that. It was a very comprehensive overview. You have a great perspective. But I would also love to bring in Prashasti, who works across campuses, and love to hear her perspective. She's going to have a bird's eye view. Prashasti, I'm sure you agree with him, but what are the other trends you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, thanks, Shilpa, and great listening to Dr. Sundar. And he's actually touched upon the microenvironment factors in the higher education in the country in great detail. And we all believe that NEP is a transformational milestone that has come to Indian higher education, and not only higher education, but also Indian education system overall. I just wanted to double click on what Dr. Sundar was talking about, multiple entry exit pathways, changing of discipline to STEAM, where things like critical thinking, problem solving, these have become essential and mandatory skills. Students also are doing multidisciplinary learning, which allows them to choose subjects of their liking to transform their career pathways as well. So we see a general rise in demand for scalable, credit eligible courses coming from different platforms such as ours, so that the curriculums are always agile to meet the evolving demands of students as well as employers, because NEP requires that pathways, multiple entry exit pathways, and how do you make sure that it is scalable at all time and updated and industry aligned? So that's one. There are two other macro factors also in play in the environment. We've seen in the past 15 months, there's a surge of generative AI. It has disrupted almost every part of the job, and also is coming now into the aspects of teaching and learning. While there was a general furor that generative AI is disrupting academic integrity, over the months we've seen many enablers come in using the technology of generative AI to transform how teachers will teach and learners will learn. But it also has a larger impact on the jobs. There is about $4 billion worth of impact in certain segments of software, marketing, sales, and other such jobs that has been already predicted on, impacted by generative AI. In the manufacturing sector, that impact is about $100 billion, which is still about in the range of 10 to 20% of the functional cost, but still it's massive, right? What does it imply for higher education institutions? It implies that industry micro-credentials need to be integrated into the curriculum to create career-ready graduates. So teach them what the industry needs. It is an increasing need for proficient, entry-level talent with emergent digital skills is what the industry is asking for. And universities now have to ensure that that is being delivered as part of their curriculums, making sure that students are relevant when they reach the placement interview. So these are the trends that we are seeing working with various corporations, governments, and campuses around the world.
Thank you so much, Dr. and Prashasti, for shedding light on that, from the NEP to the scalable courses, more accessible PhDs, and of course, we can't forget the Gen AI impact. So thank you so much for outlining that for us. Next question, this is to Dr. Manoharan. Sir, many universities are now incorporating global online content to bridge gaps and enhance industry-aligned learning. How are you designing a curriculum that is agile and prepares students for real-world careers?
First of all, online courses will definitely play a huge role in the coming years, especially for curriculum adoption. One, I want to say that COVID brought a blessing in disguise. When Indian higher education institutes were a bit reluctant to online mode, COVID almost changed 100% to online teaching and learning, and therefore that completely revamped our entire process of learning and teaching, and also our teaching and learning resources. The teaching learning resources versus the teaching learning process actually brings the relevance of online courses. And since Dr. Rastogi is here, I have to tell her that our university, more than 4,000 students have credited Coursera courses. And as on date, my data says more than 32,000 courses, certificate courses have been taken by a batch of 4,500 students or so till date. So that speaks volume about how much the online courses have become part and parcel of our curriculum integration. Now, with the NEP, there is a catch. If we try to bring SWAYAM or more courses into perspective, then there are courses which are encouraged for certification, for skill enhancement, where most of our non-teaching staff and our faculty members also do a quick certification program from Coursera. But when it comes to students, I see most of them are doing self-learning through Coursera, for which we have not added credits in the recent past. Earlier, when we started, we used to add some credit. But as per NEP requirement, now you need a semester-long course, a 36-hour course. So therefore, the credit transfer has become an issue. Therefore, at this point of time, NPTEL or MOOC courses are favored for credit transfer. But at the same time, through our assessment and evaluation, we have given weightage for Coursera courses also in our curriculum design and evaluation process. So that is giving a lot of flexibility for our students to go for online courses. So technically speaking, we think that these courses, online courses, are needed to bridge the gap between academia and industry. But I want to also tell you that many of the industries have opted for such short-term courses offered not only from MOOC portal or from Coursera, but they are also relying on higher education institutes like ours, where they want to take certification courses. So definitely online methodology has brought the gap between industry and academia. When I emphasize on the online engagement, I also want to tell you at PDPU, we have already pondered at this big question of the industry academia gap. So we have tried many methods by which we can close this gap. But later we understood that if we don't create industry level infrastructure or skill training, it is not going to happen, because you only populate the best 10 or 15% of the entire community, student community, by sending them for capstone projects or for hands-on experience in industry, because industry cannot take all your 4,000 students for industry internship. There is no place. So of late, in the last 3 years, PDU started bringing industry level skill enhancement within the campus. In other words, if you are talking about manufacturing skill set, we have started installing, establishing manufacturing skill and facilities right inside the campus. And as of now, we have 4 or 5 such centers of excellence which have a Section 8 character, which means they are operating like an industry. And students and government officials and also industry partners are coming for getting certification courses from the academia, which means there was a resolve from the management, from the administration, that it's not just important for us to connect with the industry, but to make sure that we have the preparedness where industry will come to us. This is a transformational change towards translational research. Unless we plow deep and wide into it, this industry academia gap will always remain forever, no matter how much we articulate. So on one side, we are talking about online courses, methodologies which will give the finishing school concepts, where you really make them camera ready for industry deployment. At the same time, the employability should increase by enhancing the infrastructure within the campus. So we are doing both ways. We are intensifying on the industry academia partnership through online courses, but at the same time, we are creating small industry type of infrastructure where industry no more feels there is a gap between academia and industry. In other words, we make all our students who go through this skill training through our manufacturing skill enhancement program, they are 100% industry. So these are two sweeping changes that are happening, but I am sure the online engagement is going to become much more intensive in the days to come.
Absolutely, sir. It's so interesting to hear the digital approach that you have taken to education. And as you mentioned, not only are online courses here to stay, they're also the future. I would love for Prashasti to shed some light on this.
Yeah, thanks, Shilpa. So, Dr. Sundar, I'll just extend from where you were speaking. I think the roadmap of industry academia partnership is very clear. I think what we are now concerned about is execution. From a Coursera perspective, just to put figures in perspective, there are about 45 million students enrolled in Indian higher education system. And out of that, 75% come for undergraduate programs, right? Our gross enrollment ratio is about 27%. And obviously the ambition of crossing 50% by 2030. What does this mean? This means that we need to find scalable models of generating employability-based learning for students who are in different streams of learning. Addressing about 33 million students who are preparing for their first job at an undergraduate level is an arduous task, and especially in the context of this country where every 200 kilometers the microenvironment factors change. This calls for adaptive and agile learning, and that can only happen if technology is well integrated into the learning disciplines. I'll take an example from Coursera perspective. At Coursera, we work with about 2,000 plus campuses around the world for bringing agile curriculums to students and faculty. Faculties are using Coursera in two different ways. They are using Coursera for blended courses, which means you fill gaps in your courses or expand faculty access to cutting-edge technologies, invite cross-functional professors of practice or industry professionals and expert lecturers into your classroom by relying on technology so that your curriculums are always up to date. So that's a blending methodology. And we have leveraged the power of generative AI to do that extensively, which allows the faculty to create courses which are adaptive. The other option is use courses that are created by experts on Coursera and plug into your curriculum, and depending on the levels and the classification of taxonomy and the assessments that you can also build and deploy through Coursera, assign credits for it. So this will be completely career alignment.
Absolutely, a very significant discussion there. And now, actually, I would like to take us into the future. So I would like to pose this to Dr. Sundar. So what do you envision future universities will look like, and how will technology, particularly Gen AI, shape the future of higher education in terms of personalized learning, engaging learners, and achieving scale cost effectively?
Our Pandit Deendayal Energy University actually represents liberal arts, management, and technical education. So I have mixed feedbacks, mixed perspective about the use of generative AI. Definitely, that's going to be part and parcel of the learning process as far as liberal arts and management is concerned. Because there is more to generative research, generative innovation, generative research, and generative decisions to follow, which is easily adoptable for arts and science courses. But when it comes to engineering course, I have a feeling that generative AI will be limited in its adoption, because especially when you think about numerical problems, numerical courses, generative AI has to be cautiously handled. But that's not the case, or it could be much more in a relaxed way. Generative AI will be adopted in the liberal arts stream. But we are also cautiously adopting to this, especially in the way we bring generative AI into the course curriculum, and allowing our students to use Gen AI we are doing it with a lot of care and with a lot of uh, upper and lower bounds to it. But definitely, the individual learning process is going to be a lot more different for a student, especially who is going through liberal arts. But it's going to be a little tougher. I would say, I mean, I would metaphorize into the railway traffic, the broad gauge, the narrow gauge uh, situation. For the engineering students, it's going to be narrow gauge because we cannot provide a broad gauge platform with generative AI because it calls for different level of Bloom's taxonomy uh, integration. When it comes to technical education, we are talking about uh, the Bloom's taxonomy level at 4.5 to 5, where you ask the student to become more creative, uh, to become more explicit in his learning. So that I think has to happen by himself rather than assisted by Gen AI. But when it comes to liberal arts management, probably there will be a lot more share for them to use this in the daily adoption. So I feel um, the situation is right to adopt to Gen AI. But I think in the learning and evaluation process, we are still not clear. The higher education platform has not brought a levelized approach to it. So I think it will take a little bit more time for us to uh, map between quantitative versus qualitative learning. So when you quantize, you never know how much Gen AI can be picturized or can be put inside a proper framework. So I think that's the next menu for stakeholders like us to really quantify the Gen AI intrusion into both learning and evaluation process.
So that's a very nuanced take indeed, And Prashasti, you had earlier said that Gen AI has now evolved from being a disruptor to an actual enabler. So I would love to hear your perspective on this.
Sure. See, the headlines at the time, OpenAI launched ChatGPT were, oh my God, it's going to kill academic integrity. We can't define learning outcomes. There's going to be so much plagiarism, right? It has now changed in many ways. People are looking at generative AI as a tool which can facilitate a lot of things at a fraction of a cost, which took forever to build and then also very expensive to build. In education alone, there was a study by McKinsey and Company on the economic potential of generative AI, right? And they said, let's look at activities performed by educators, professionals, and creatives. And let's say, what is the impact of generative AI on technical automation potential? And the scenario in education and workforce training was it is a 54% incremental impact using generative AI versus the same tasks when done without generative AI were only 15 on the point scale of 15 in terms of productivity, right? And Coursera, as a company, because we deal with educators day in and day out, we took a very conscious step towards harnessing the power of generative AI and making a lot of enablements possible for the faculty and the learners. It was also a recent case study published by Harvard Business School, Coursera's foray into Gen AI. I'll be happy to share a copy with Dr. Sundar as well, where all this has been documented on how Coursera is making education much more enabled. So there are three ways in which we try to solve the problems at the educator level. One is the educator needs to strategically embed world-class expertise with their own authentic localized learning to ensure that the learning outcomes of the students are very adaptive. That's problem statement number one. Second one was how do we ensure that students who are learning have an all-time tutor available which can answer their questions and also enable career guidance? So that's problem statement number 2. Number 3 is, how can we reach each and every learner on this globe, taking away the barrier of language? So we deployed machine translations to ensure equal access to quality content by using AI to translate courses. You'll be happy to know that 4,500 courses on Coursera currently are run in Hindi language since January this year. And all this is possible because we could harness the power of AI. There's also a coach, which is a real-time assistant for a student to ask questions on very, very fine topics, to ask questions something like, if I complete this certification, what are the career opportunities available for me, and what are the other skills that I need to build to make sure those career opportunities are mine to get? And third thing is Course Builder, where just by using text prompts, adding their own syllabus, and giving some commands to the system, teachers are able to build authentic online courses and also assessments relevant to those courses within fraction of a day, which took them 6 months to rebuild and redesign curriculums. So if Dr. Sundar invites the president of the university, Mr. Mukesh Ambani, for a guest lecture on climate change, for example, to PDEU, he can actually embed that lecture into a course which also talks about climate change and deliver that course within a matter of few hours to all the students within PDU who have access to Coursera platform. So that is the power of AI. But we also understand all this requires a little bit of an understanding of AI as well. Right now we have about 350 plus certifications live on the Coursera platform that allows every learner to build GenAI skills. I think that is where the whole harnessing of the technology is happening, and it's happening very, very fast. We've heard MedGemini from Google become a rage. People are uploading their ultrasounds to take first diagnosis and understand which specialist they should visit to. So AI is everywhere. There's no way to escape. There's only a way to adapt and evolve.
That's very well put indeed, Prashasti. And thank you to you and to Dr. Sundar for sharing your valuable insights with us and to our viewers for tuning in. We're so excited to witness this ongoing collaboration between universities and online platforms as they shape the future of education. Thank you.